Hello to all new and old friends who are passionate about photobooks and more generally about photography, photographers, creative processes, stories, binding, paper smell, this one is really important, and lots of other things. I'm Gabriele Chiapparini, welcome you to this new episode of Small Photobook Cult. If you like our videos, please like them. Take some time to comment and let us know your thoughts, and clearly subscribe to the channel to stay updated. This week's book is Better in the Dark Than His Rider by Francesco Merlini, a book on the line between wakefulness and sleep, a book that makes twilight his playground, a book that tells us about that fragment of time that lies between lights and absolute darkness. This is episode number 12, and we are here with Francesco Merlini. Hello, Francesco.
Hi everybody. Hi Gabriele. Thank you for the invitation. I'm very happy to be here to speak about my book.
Maybe we can start from the title, if you want.
Yes, the title of the book is Better in the Dark Than His Rider. And yes, quite a peculiar genesis, because during the making of the book, me and two publishers, Luca Reff and Francesca Todde from the Purple Image, we went through hundreds of essays, old books about dreams, about nightmares, about the psychology of sleeping, about also the anatomy of the eye and all the medical aspects that are connected to the world of dreams. And mostly these books, these essays that we found, they were from 19th and 18th century. And one day we bumped into this medical essay about the connection between the oniric activity and the sense of sight. From 19th century, we bumped into this page of this volume, and the page is also at the end of the book, where, in one chapter of this essay, there is this sentence that it's better in the dark than his rider, and in this volume is referred to how. When someone is riding in the night a horse, they have to trust. It's better to trust the animal, the horse, because the size of the horse eye is much bigger than the one of the human, and so they look much better into the darkness. We found this sentence, this thought, very, very interesting, because. From one side, staying in the perimeter of the dreams, that it's the main topic of the book, for us, this was an invitation to get abandoned to the oniric activity, to lose control, and to accept the thing that we cannot control, what we do and what we go through when we dream. On the other side, for me as a photographer, it was very interesting as a title, because in the last years, being a photographer brought me to, as I think many colleagues, to abandon a bit that activity that it's typical when you start to be interested into photography, to go always around with camera and to take, images of things without any project in mind. But then when you go on with your photographic path at a certain point, more and more it's very hard that maybe you take a photograph if you're not working on a project, and it's more and more rarely that you go around with the camera, for example, when you are on holiday, or when you just hang out in the city where you live. But during the pandemic especially, I rediscovered the pleasure to sometimes also just take a camera and go out and take photographs, also just to see how something that you meet, that you encounter in your life appear when you take a photograph of it. And so for me, this title also refers in a way to a coming back to that beautiful aspect of taking photographs, of to getting abandoned to the camera. and sometimes also maybe also stop thinking too much, because for sure project it's what define as a photographer, and it's something that a young photographer understand very fast. But at the same time, I think the risk of this, it's also that at a certain time you almost risk to lose a bit the pleasure and also the lightness and the easiness of just taking a camera and taking pictures. And for me, with this book and with this title, it's also a reflection about keep be also conscious that okay, project, but at a certain point, it's also important to try to keep and try to protect the immediacy of photography.
Yeah, because it's a bit a pity that sometimes it happens that you go through projects and so you have just to take pictures that are, I don't know, like can work with the project you are doing. And it's true that it's really easy to lost this easy way to do photography. And also I noticed that a lot of time it happens that the pictures that you take when you are not thinking like nothing in specific, but just because you see something and you get inspired, sometimes are the best pictures you can make.
Absolutely. I think that maybe the biggest power of photography it's to meet something in reality and to be hit by that thing, and already the fact that you stop and you decided to take a photograph, it's already something very, very important, especially nowadays with the rhythm of life that we have. And then with a photograph, you can suggest to a wider audience how you saw reality. And this is something that, yes, being a photographer make you think to photography, dividing in a way your activity and dividing reality into projects. And this is great. But yes, as we said, then there is the risk that you lost a bit the pleasure, and at the end you lost also a lot of possible good photographs, interesting subjects, because maybe in that period you are not working on a project, or very simply you're working on a project and what you have in front of you, it's not part of that project. In a way, in a very simple way, this makes me think also, to professional athletes that, sometimes you read about, football players that since when they started to be professional and when they started to play professionally, some of them on the way they lost their passion for football, for sport. And sometimes they say it was so good, I would like to come back when I used to play, in the the park in front of the house. Professionalism always bring also some criticism, and on the long way also some the risk that at a certain point it became something mechanical, of something very, very narrow.
So what is this project about? Because if I remember like correctly, it's also like there are some like archive photographies from your like previous works, right?
Yes, this project, this book is very peculiar because this is a project that without the book would never exist. In the sense that I know Luca Ref and Francesca Todde for many years now, and we always wanted to work together, to do something together. And at a certain point, a few years back, they come to me and they say, okay, let's do a book together. And I told them, yes, I would love, but I just did another book, I don't have any projects suitable for a book right now. And they told me, well, but you know what? We are not really interested into a new project, anything like that. But we would like to build a book, to build a project with all the images in your archive, in your hard disk, that they don't belong to any project. But then I put together hundreds of images that they were in the sort of limbo. So they didn't belong to any projects, and they were images that have been taken during trips or while working maybe on other projects, but then they've been discarded because they didn't fit the project that I was doing. Projects done while I was around, very different kind of photographs. And we started to watch together in order just to see if, every photograph, all the photographs touching each other, they could have created maybe a new connection. They could have created something that it could have been a topic, a story. And it has been very interesting and quite surprising, because when we started this process, since the beginning, but probably according to Luca, also because of how I take photographs. According to Luca, I take photographs like a sleepwalker, like an alien that go around and see things for the first time. We started to see how some photographs, they were speaking to other photographs, and together they were bringing us in the oniric world. And in particular, we started, while looking at the photographs, to focus on a particular aspect of oniric activity, that it's, when you start to dream, at a certain point, you are conscious that you're dreaming. And so you have a bit of control, at least for some seconds, about the dream, about what you can do consciously in the dream. I think the result, the book, it's so interesting because it's not the photographic project that then has been transformed in a book, but all the decisions in terms of selection and sequencing have been taken together with the decision that defined the design of the book. We tried with this book to push the medium of book, and we had this very crazy idea: do a book where, because Luca Reffo, one of the two editors, is a painter. It's an amazing painter, and he has a huge sensibility for colors. So we started to think about the crazy idea of printing a book with color around photographs. And he spent like 6 months of his life finding the right colors to use for this thing, for this idea. And the result could have been something, apart from interesting ideas, something very heavy, very tiring. But at the end, I think it has been very, very good. And one of the best compliments we received, it was by people that they told us that they put attention. They realized that the pages are colorful, have a color background just at the end of the book. If I would have decided to do a project about dreams, or if someone would have come to me saying, listen, I give you an assignment, please do a project about dreams, I think the result would have been very different and much less interesting. Because I think I would have started like some authors, some artists, not just photographers, did in the past, to focus just on representation of dreams, of nightmares, on metaphors, on symbolism. For sure, there is a lot of metaphors, there are a lot of symbols inside the book. But in a way, the thing that we worked with photographs that have already been taken and that have not been taken with that purpose, in a way, this recreates the lack of definition, the lack of perfection that dreams have. Dreams are not precise at all, and working, I think, with this kind of images instead of creating something from zero, that this would have bring me to look for much more definition, to be on point, to be more precise, the result would have been completely different, and I think more constructed and less honest and less evocative about what the imaginary of dreams it really is. Another thing that I think is very interesting and we are quite proud of is that we did a book about dreams, but a book that has very, very few images of night, images of darkness. It's made of light, it's made of brightness, even if it spoke about an activity that usually took place in the night.
Francesco, how was the process to choose the images?
The process has been quite complicated because it's a process that has been done simultaneously by three people, by me, Luca, and Francesco. And so we started to do the beginning larger and then more and more narrow selections, photographs that among the hundreds of photographs we started from, they were speaking of the topic, and they were igniting reflection and stories and different sides of this topic. So we started to do individual selections, and then putting together, we started to choose those images that they were in all the selection of trees. And with this, we started to build the skeleton of the project. And then, in order to build then the narration from the beginning to the end of the book, starting from the skeleton, is together collectively we started to choose those images that, in a way, they fill the gap between the most important images that we defined in the first rounds of selection. About the sequencing, it's after a lot of talks, after a lot of confrontation, we decided to create a sequencing, a narration that, in a way, the book starts with images that speak to us about the anatomical aspects. In the first half of the book, there are a lot of eyes. Some are visible, some are hidden, but there are a lot of photographs that speak of the anatomy. And for us, this was very important because dreaming, the images that our dreams are made of, they start in the eyes of in our eyes. Because if we don't see anything, it's very hard it's almost impossible that we'll dream of it. So we started with those photographs, and then more and more we started to go deeper in the oniric activity, in the dream activity. And the center of the book, the attention from the gaze, from the anatomy of the eye, from the eyes, they move to the abstract, to the oniric dream. In the center of the book, it's what I was telling about before. It's the part where we go deeper in the hypnagogic dreams, where people started to realize that maybe it's dreaming, and so it tried to have power. It tried to shape the dream that is having. And at the end, instead, there is the last part of the project, the last part of the book that instead for us is where you completely abandon yourself to the dreaming activity. And at the end of the book, there are the images that they are the more abstract, the more, in a sense, incredible images, the images that they are far from reality. And for us, that is where we completely abandon ourselves, and we do not pretend anymore to keep this bond to reality.
You're speaking about these images that we are seeing right now, right?
Yes, especially, yes, these images, yes, where you can see they are much more dreamy photographs, and also the choice of the color of the pages at the end it became red, it became much more stronger than at the beginning.
Yeah, like to me, these pictures in the end looks a bit like when you are to slowly go down in deeper
Deeper sleeping
yeah.
and deeper dreaming. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's that moment when you stop dreaming in some way, and like the
Yeah, when you arrive to the very very end, it's where yes, you are so deep into sleeping that you also stop dreaming, and everything turn dark, and
Yeah.
everything go offline.
And I really love the fact that in this picture there is this like you're losing a bit the edge of the objects. The object starts to be just, I don't know, this house looks like there is just this part of the house, just that face.
Yes, the last images have colors, have type of colors and the type of lights that they are much more. How can I say? There is less realism. There is less links with reality. While the images of the first half of the book, the colors are much more faithful to the colors and the shapes that you see in reality. There is, I think, a climax of going from photographs that depict reality in a more documentary way towards the end, where one page at a time, the colors, the shapes, the atmosphere, they are more and more far from what reality and subjectivity look like.
How do you think like the images speaks about dreams in some way? What were you looking for?
It's a very hard question because with a topic like dreams, and to this I think that working in three instead of working in one, it has been very precious because even if we are three, we are not 100s. The thing that we worked in three give much more a bigger perimeter to dreams, because otherwise it would have been a project just not about dreams, but just about my dreams. While working in three, we put inside also the oniric activity of Luca and Francesca, and this for sure exponentially make it grow the perimeter and the possible audience that we can reach. I've never been so interested into just doing the copies of reality and just taking photographs to give information. And I think that even now, even in the field of documentary photography or even in the perimeter of photojournalism, I think it's more and more necessary to, when we take a photograph, when we show a photograph, we work with reality, but we have to do photographs that have a mental layer, that it's an interpretation. Because if we just take photograph to just show how something is done, I don't think it's so interesting, especially nowadays where people it's so anesthetized. And so even if we speak about news topic, it's interesting when the photograph has the power not just to show, but as the power to suggest an interpretation, to put in motion the mind of the audience. And this is why in my photographs, even before doing this project, and this is also why I always use a lot the vertical. I always try to take photographs that they are not too much full of informations, of details, because I like to think that I would like to leave in my photograph a bit of space in order to make the audience put a leg into that. And so, starting from my images, it has not been so hard to select images that for sure they have a subject, for sure maybe they suggest a measure reading of that image, but at the same time almost all the images, they are the images that leave space to the audience to to put something of their personal story, of their dreams, of their vision of reality and of life. And this is something that makes then much easier to go through the images and to select images that really speak to us about dreams.
There is also a lot of decontextualization of the pictures, right?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. For me, the contextualization it's very very important always, because I do an example like. I never loved so much to go to photograph into places like India, Japan, places where they have such a strong visual personality, and they've been photographed so much that most of the times, if you see a photograph taken that in 1 second, you understand where it has been taken, because there are elements that they are so well known about those places that everybody, when we look at that photograph, he will start to look at the photograph and say, okay, but this is India, this is in Japan. So what I see, yes, it's fine because it's there or it's that. And so, as I was saying before, I always loved to recontextualize the subject, because I think that if I don't give too many informations about where the photograph has been taken, about the complete story that there is behind the photograph, it's much more interesting, and there is much more space for the viewer to fill the holes with their thoughts and with their reality, and this brings the viewer nearer to the photograph, and maybe it makes possible that is more interested, and he will spend a bit more time in that. And this is, I think, it's something that even in photojournalism, it's more and more important and necessary. And when I show to my students, for example, the photograph that in the past years, but also decades, won important photojournalistic prizes like WordPress Photo, Pulitzer, and that kind of thing. At the end, if you go to see the best photographs, the photographs that have became part of history and that won this important prize, you will see that the winning photographs are never the photographs that give so many information about something. But most of the time, they are photographs where there are not a lot of elements, but they are all photographs where the subject and the story, it's always a bit decontextualized. And in this way, the photograph and the story became universal. It's not became unreadable. It's the opposite, because there is some space, and in 1 second you don't understand everything. That makes the picture more interesting and more universal.
The color play a huge role in this book. We spoke about the color of the paper, and I think I have to say that the object, the book itself, is really beautiful, right?
Yeah, it was. It's a trick. I mean, whoever has the possibility to work with printing books, or anyway to printing photographs, knows very well that it would have been impossible to print photographs in this way on color paper. So we decided to try to do a game, and we tried to do a book that looks like it's printed on colorful paper, but all the paper of the book, it's white. But we have been able, with a very 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 good printer, and with some particular processing then of the printing, we have been able to really do a book that looks like every photograph it's printed on a different color page. And this is something very interesting to us, because it's something that, for people that work with books and work with photography, it's something that when they remember the first festivals, when we have the book, they come and they say, wow, you have been able really to do this. Wow, it's amazing. It's very good. And maybe they are not even so interested in the photographic project, but they bought the book because for them it was a piece of printing art.
It's true.
At the same time, there are people that they don't give a fuck about printing process, and they don't know that, and they're not interested in that. But anyway, they love the book, and even if they didn't understand that, it was not important. And for us, this has been it's very nice, and it's also something that the Purple Image do a lot with their books, where they put a lot of details that people that from the world of photography they will understand, they will find them, but at the same time. These details are details that they are not just technical masturbation, but they have a reason.
Of course.
And so they can be appreciated in another way also from people that instead they don't have the technical knowledge of printing or photography processing and this kind of thing.
Francesco, I'm going to ask you the standard question that I ask all the time, if it's okay for you.
Absolutely.
Okay, the first one is... do you have a suggestions for young photographers approaching photography right now? Maybe something that you discovered doing this project?
For sure, it's to look a lot at our photographs, but also photographs from other authors. And when we see something that we like, I suggest to not take them like if it's a miracle or it's something that it happens and it's something out of hand, something that, oh wow, such an amazing photograph, oh wow, I would never do anything like that. But my suggestion is always when we look at something that we like, ours or from another author, is to take some minutes and try to tear apart the photograph and to try to understand what there is, what makes that photograph so interesting, so nice, so emotional. Because in that way you will understand that what makes that photograph so special, it's something very tangible, very simple, and very easy to replicate. And for me, this is one of the best instruments we have in order to grow up as a photographer. And then another advice, as I said before, but it's not really for young photographer, but probably it's most for older photographer, is that, yes, okay, working on projects, but sometimes also try to force yourself to take a camera and go out without any idea and take photographs, because it's something that for some years I completely lost. And doing that, I really risk to lose also a bit of love for photography. And it's something that now sometimes I just do it, and it's really something that makes me feel good. But then it's also something that I realized it's also very useful from then when you will work on projects. And also, sometimes maybe from a random photograph that you take while walking near the house, important and good ideas for new projects can come out. You never know where it can come out.
Yeah, it's true. And also what happens, at least to me, like taking pictures in that way, like a bit randomic way, it's also that can happen something magical in some way, because you are doing it not in a really, let's say, you're not working in a really structured workflow. You are more like see something.
Yeah, you're not an assignment for someone else or for yourself, because then when you do a project, you're just an assignment for you.
Yeah.
But it's really something that can put the mind in motion. And sometimes maybe you go downstairs and you take photographs of I don't know, a tree under your house, and I say, fuck, I took a very good photograph of the tree, but wait, if I would like to take a lot of photographs of trees, maybe I could find a topic or a project or story that I could tell with a lot of photographs of trees. And so everything can you never know when something when a project where can come from.
And also, like, you can be surprised in some way. It can happen that you are surprised because maybe you took a pictures in a really fast way because you don't have a lot of time to take it, and can be surprised. You can learn something new that maybe was not in your cultural way of taking pictures. But now you can know that it's possible. You have a new. You can have a I don't know, a new approach, a different approach, something that you can use properly from that point.
Absolutely. Also, because sometimes when you are not working on a project or an assignment, for sure you feel the freedom also maybe to experiment a bit, and maybe also in taking photographs in a different way from the usual way that maybe in the last years you use to take photographs, and maybe that can be can ignite a project where you will work in a total different way. Then I think this is also important because we also work we are in a period where also professional photographer, I think it's for me, but I think also for many colleagues, we travel less and less. And because of this, we also take less and less photographs. And it happened to me in the past years, maybe also to stay several months without taking photographs. And this is bad. This is something that when it happens, I don't feel good. And so also, sometimes also even without a project, just going out with the camera, it can be also very good for the heart to do it.
I agree. So the very last question is I have still two questions. The almost very last question is, do you have some music to suggest us to listen while watching the book?
It's a very good question. For sure, it's a very musical book, and some people that bought the book told us that they look at it on the bed, like when you was younger, and maybe you go to buy a new album, and then you spend the Saturday afternoon on the bed listening for that, and this made us very happy. I don't think to have a very peculiar song or because I listen to very different music that go from electronic to rock to instrument to classic music. I think dreams it's something so personal and so subjective, and it's something so different from each one of us. That there is not a track or a musician that I think it would be suitable for everyone. I just suggest maybe to go through the book with music from someone that we really like and that we make us drift with our mind. We're not suggested to take drugs to go through the book, but everyone is free to do to do whatever you want. Maybe it could be a good book to do that.
Yeah, it's possible. And the very last question is: do you have a book to recommend us to have in one of the next episode?
A book, the last book from Francesca Todde that. I was looking at a few days back, and it's very, very interesting. And it's Yuzza by Francesca Todde. That it's a book that I think it's very, very interesting because it's a book about Goliarda Sapienza. That she was an amazing writer, but I really love that book, and I think this is something very valuable because Francesca has been done with the help of Luca. Sure, has been able to do a book that for sure it's amazing for people that they know and they are interested in the work and in the life of Goliarda Sapienza. But it's incredible how she has been able do to do a book that it's interesting and it can speak also to people that don't know at all who Goliarda Sapienza was.
Yeah, it's true.
Because even knowing her, there is a beautiful story inside the books, and it's a story that can arrive, and it's something that each one of us, even if we don't know anything about Goliarda Sapienza, can be interesting. And I think this was very surprising and was for me very, very, very interesting. In the last period, I had the possibility to spend some time with a friend that I like him very much. It's Andrea Boscardin. He's a photographer, but it's many years that he has a publishing house called Rumore Nero. It has done various books all over the years. But in the last period, Andrea is just working on completely handmade books of the photograph that he taken mostly in the forest, in Liguria, but not only. And it's very interesting because it's a totally different way to do books, because they are they do very few copies of every book, but every book is completely made by hand. And he learned how to do books in Japan, in Tokyo. And I always love these books because I love the photographs. But before we were speaking about how the design, how a book is made, it's very, very important and can amplify so much a photographic project. In that case, that is, apart from the design decision that he took, every time I have his book in his hand, I also appreciate, and he gives so much value to the book, the thing that it's knowing that everything it is done by hand, from the binding to every aspect of the book. And that is something to me very, very interesting and very, very powerful.
Okay, thank you so much. It was really beautiful, Francesco. It was a nice conversation. We spoke a lot about a lot of stuff outside the book, and it's really good.
It's really good also for me. Then the book is a book, but photography in general and what there is behind and around the book, I think it's very interesting also for because I mean, if people is interested in the book, he can go through that. But I think occasions like these are more and more important to speak and to understand, and especially for young photographers to have an idea of what there is behind, before and after a book.
Yeah, I agree.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
It's been very interesting.
So, thank you so much, and see you with your next books, I hope.
Yeah, I hope so. Maybe I will need some time, but I hope to have the possibility to do another book soon. Absolutely.
Amazing. Okay, thank you so much. Bye-bye, Francesco, and bye-bye, everyone. Thank you so much if you listen to the full episode, and see you soon. Ciao.
Ciao a tutti. Thank you. Bye.